wonderful to serve the Lord Yeshua, Jesus, here on Mount Carmel in these last days. We're seeing Jews and Arabs come to the Lord. In fact, I've studied the prophet Elijah and his life and written the book, The Elijah Legacy. And I believe that the prophet Elijah and his life have tremendous, profound, and prophetic significances for us in the last days in the body of Messiah. In fact, the Old Testament even ends with, "Behold, before the great and terrible day of the Lord, I will send you the prophet Elijah, and he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, the hearts of the children to the fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with a curse." I believe much of the earth is cursed because we don't have spiritual fathers and mothers in the body of Messiah. I want to talk to you for a few minutes about the days of Elijah and how they're similar to our days. In the days of Elijah, there was terrible gloom and darkness and apostasy in northern Israel, where Elijah would emerge. There were 7 terrible kings all in a row, and each one seemed to get worse than the last. And the worst of all, the scriptures say, was Ahab. Ahab not only led the people astray, but he went to Sidon, which was in those days, we would say it was the New Age demonic capital of the Middle East. And he took Etbaal, the priest there, the demonic leader of this cultish religion, to Baal. He took his daughter Jezebel and married her. Not only that, he brought her back to Israel, and he built a temple to Baal. He built altars to Baal, and he began to serve and worship Baal, and led all the children of Israel, many of them except the remnant that was hiding in caves, to worship this false god Baal. Baal means owner. It means possession. Baal was the god, the Canaanite head god of fertility and sex and rain and wind and sun and power. And so all over the high places of Israel, these shrines were put up, temples were built, altars were built. And the men of Israel, who should have been worshiping the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, were led astray, and terrible things were done on the high places, including Mount Carmel. There were temple prostitution, there was homosexuality. Children were taken from their mothers and put into these metal images of Baal, where they were burned and to death as a sacrifice to Baal as the mothers screamed. And all through northern Israel, there was this kind of reign of terror as Jezebel was hunting down the true prophets and trying to find them and actually killing them. In the midst of this, she ordained 450 false prophets. It seemed like there was no hope. It seemed like that things were so terrible, the government had endorsed all this idolatry. And today, we look at ourselves today, and what do we see in Israel, in America, in the nations? Government-endorsed idolatry. We think, how could it be so, people be so terrible that they would sacrifice children? Well, the abortion epidemic in the world, in Israel and America and throughout Europe and other places, a saline solution abortion. A mother's baby is punctured through the mother's stomach with a needle full of salt. The baby explodes. They take out the body parts and they throw it in the bag. So the days of Elijah, the days of Ahab are with us today. And I believe God has a message for his church in the body of Messiah about the days of Elijah. Now, the Torah was very, very clear. The children of Israel had been called, the chosen people, to come into the land of Canaan and destroy all the altars of the heathen worship that had gone on there. They were supposed to destroy them, they were supposed to tear them down, and they were supposed to set up altars to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh, Jehovah. And so they were ordered to do that. And instead, many of the children of Israel came in and got pulled into and sucked into this false religion that was in the land. And God then began to have a problem with what was going on in Israel. And so he looked around. He was looking for what to do about this. His eyes are always scanning to and fro throughout the earth to find someone whose heart is loyal to him. He found someone like Gideon. Gideon actually tore down the altar to Baal. You know the story in Judges 8 and Judges 9. He tore down that altar. The Holy Spirit came upon him. the dew of God, the fire of God, the rain of God. And with his 300, they brought a revival up here to northern Israel, where I live, in Galilee, many years before the times of Elijah. So there had been people, there had been a remnant of Jewish believers who got a hold of God and would not be pulled into all the mixture of Baalism. Now you look at the church today, there's so much mixture. We travel around the world, we see various things, we hear various things, we get things on the internet. Homosexuality, which was rampant in Baalism. Now there are great denominations that are ordaining homosexual priests. It's all right to have sex, we're told. It's on the internet, believers arguing what's wrong with sexual immorality. I mean, have they read the Bible? And so here, all of this mixture of Baal, not only Baal worship is in America, in the government or in the nations where you see laws being made for homosexual marriages and all the rest of the things that are going on, but it's actually crept into the church. So the days of Elijah, they're with us today. Now God has an answer. As gloomy as it looks, as dark as it looked then, it seemed like there was no hope. Jezebel was on a rampage. It was a reign of terror. Prophets, the true prophets of God, the real preachers, were hiding in caves. And as these things were happening, she seduced not only her husband, but the whole nation. You see, a weak man with a strong woman can always be a major problem. Ahab is mixture man. He didn't walk the walk the way he should have. He knew all about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He knew about the Torah. He knew about the prophets. And yet, all of this mess came into Israel. But God had an answer. The answer was a man. It always is, or a woman. This man's name was Elijah. Jehovah is my God. God found him a man. A man that was sold out for God. A man that hadn't been pulled into all the sexual immorality, that hadn't been pulled into all the compromise. A man that was focused on the true God, the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God is always looking for somebody like that. Here on Mount Carmel, we have an Elisha generation, we call them, of young leaders that we've been training. And we have been teaching them that they need to walk like Elijah. Elijah was a man with a nature like you and me. He wasn't some superhuman angel or something like some rabbis will tell us. He was a man who was dead to himself and was on fire for God. And God found him to stand against all the idolatry that had come into Israel. He's looking for people like that all over the nations. Are you one of them? Is the Lord saying to you, I want all your heart, so that I can use you like the prophet Elijah in the last days and be part of this end time Elijah remnant? I hope so.